Chocolate cake, everyone loves it, don't they? It's a real crowd pleaser, a guaranteed winner, perfect for birthdays, celebrations, or just a Tuesday treat when you fancy something special. There's a unique satisfaction that comes from baking a chocolate cake from scratch in your own kitchen. The rich aroma filling the air as it bakes, the deep, dark, inviting color of the sponge, and then, that moment when you take the first perfect slice. This recipe here, it's designed to give you just that, a proper, deeply satisfying chocolate cake experience. Now, don't you be nervous if you're a bit new to this baking game. This recipe is wonderfully straightforward, truly it is. I've made absolutely sure that all the steps are crystal clear and very easy to follow. You won't need any ridiculously fancy equipment either, just good, honest ingredients and a little bit of care and attention. We'll go through the entire process together, one step at a time. You'll be genuinely surprised at what you can achieve with a bit of guidance. Get ready to bake something truly special, something you'll be proud of. First things first, let's get your baking station properly organized. You will need a couple of good-sized mixing bowls, nothing too small. A sturdy whisk is essential, or an electric hand mixer if you happen to have one. A flexible silicone spatula is incredibly handy for scraping down the sides of the bowl, ensuring everything is incorporated. And of course you'll need 2 round cake tins. About 8-inch or 20 centimeters in diameter is the ideal size for this recipe. Remember to preheat your oven too, that's absolutely crucial for a good bake. Set it to around 180 degrees Celsius, or 160 degrees if you're using a fan-assisted oven. The quality of your ingredients is key. It always is in baking. You should always try to use the best quality ingredients that you can comfortably afford. This is especially true for the cocoa powder. It really is the star of the show when you're making a chocolate cake. If you're planning on adding any chocolate for decoration, use good quality chocolate for that as well. It makes a world of difference to the final flavor and texture of your bake. Never compromise on your core ingredients. Your taste buds will certainly thank you for it later on. Trust me on this one, it's a fundamental rule. Right, let's talk about your dry ingredients. These form the backbone of your cake. You'll need plain flour, sometimes called all-purpose flour. Make sure you sift it. Always sift your flour when making cakes, it's not an old wives' tale. It aerates the flour and makes your cakes much lighter. Then you'll need granulated sugar for that essential sweetness. Not too much and not too little. Balance is important. And now for the hero ingredient, unsweetened cocoa powder. Try to get a good, dark, rich one if you can find it. This is what gives your cake that deep, intense chocolate flavor we are all looking for. Finally, a small pinch of salt. Don't ever forget the salt. It might seem minor, but it brilliantly enhances all the other flavors in the cake. Next up on our list are your raising agents. These are incredibly important for the texture of your cake. For this recipe, we'll be using both baking powder and bicarbonate of soda, also known as baking soda. They work together in harmony. Their job is to give the cake its lift, its rise. They make the cake light and beautifully airy, not dense and heavy like a brick. It's very important to check the use-by dates on these products. Old, out-of-date raising agents simply won't do their job properly. You're aiming for a good, even rise on your cake, so ensure they are fresh. Now, let's move on to the wet team of ingredients. We need large eggs for this cake. It's best to bring them to room temperature before you begin mixing. Cold eggs straight from the fridge don't incorporate into the batter as well. Full-fat milk is good for adding richness and moisture. You could even use buttermilk if you want to introduce a slight, pleasant tang to the flavor profile. Vegetable oil is used in this recipe because it makes the cake incredibly moist. Sometimes it can result in a moister cake than using butter. And of course, a good splash of pure vanilla extract. Use real vanilla, not imitation essence if it's within your budget. It beautifully rounds off all the flavors. Here's a little professional tip from me, something I often use. My secret weapon for making chocolate cakes even better. Consider adding a teaspoon or perhaps 2 of instant espresso powder, or, if you prefer, a shot of strong, cooled black coffee. Now don't you worry, your finished cake won't taste like a latte or a cappuccino. The coffee doesn't overpower, instead it magically deepens the chocolate flavor. It makes it seem richer, more complex, and more intensely chocolatey. It's a very simple trick, but believe me, it's remarkably effective. Just give it a try next time. You'll certainly see the difference it makes. Preparation, as I always say, is absolutely everything in baking. So it's vital to prepare your cake tins properly before you start mixing. Grease them thoroughly all over with a little softened butter or a flavorless vegetable oil. Then, Carefully line the bottom of each tin with a precisely cut circle of baking parchment or grease-proof paper. This simple step guarantees that your beautiful cakes won't stick to the tins. There's truly nothing more frustrating or disheartening than baking a wonderful cake only for it to get stuck in its tin. A little bit of extra effort here saves a lot of potential heartbreak later on. If you're using square tins, make sure every single corner is well greased. Okay, let's get down to the mixing. In a large, spacious bowl, combine all of your carefully measured dry ingredients. That means the sifted flour, the granulated sugar, the rich cocoa powder, the baking powder, the bicarbonate of soda, and that important pinch of salt. Whisk them all together very well with a hand whisk. This step is more important than you might think. It effectively breaks up any small lumps, especially in the flour or cocoa. And crucially, it ensures that all the dry components, particularly the raising agents, are evenly distributed throughout the mixture. You definitely don't want an unexpected bite of pure baking soda in your finished cake. So, give it a proper, thorough whisk. In a separate bowl, it's time to deal with your wet ingredients. Lightly whisk the room temperature eggs first. Then, add in the milk, the vegetable oil, and the pure vanilla extract. And don't forget the coffee or espresso powder dissolved in a little hot water, if you've decided to use that clever trick. Whisk all these wet ingredients together until they are nicely combined and smooth. Now, gently pour this wet mixture into the bowl containing your dry ingredients. Begin to mix them together. You can use a spatula for this, or a whisk on a very slow speed if using an electric mixer. Mix only until everything is just combined. I must stress this, do not overmix the batter. Overmixing develops the gluten in the flour too much. This will make your cake tough, not tender. Now for a slightly unusual step, but one that works absolute wonders for chocolate cakes. Carefully, and I mean carefully, add boiling water to the batter. Yes, you heard that right. Boiling water. Add it slowly and steadily, whisking it in as you go. You'll notice that the batter will become quite thin and rather liquid. Don't panic at this stage. This consistency is exactly what you are aiming for. This hot water serves a dual purpose. It helps the cocoa powder to bloom, which means it releases even more of its rich flavor. And secondly, it contributes to creating a beautifully moist, incredibly tender cake crumb. Once mixed, divide this lovely thin batter evenly between your two prepared cake tins. Right then, into the preheated oven they go. Your cakes will typically need to bake for about 30 to 35 minutes. However, it's important to remember that every oven has its own personality. They are all slightly different. So, I would advise you to start checking for doneness around the 25-minute mark, just to be safe. The best way to check if they're perfectly baked is to insert a thin skewer or a cocktail stick into the center of each cake. If the skewer comes out clean, without any wet batter clinging to it, then they're ready. If there's still some wet batter on it, they'll need a bit longer in the oven. You're looking for a well-risen cake that is springy to the touch. Once your cakes are perfectly baked, don't rush them out of their tins immediately. It's best to let the cakes cool down in their tins for about 10 minutes or so. This short cooling period helps them to firm up a little bit, making them less fragile. Then very carefully, invert them onto a wire cooling rack. Gently peel off the baking parchment from the bottom of each layer. Now comes the part that requires patience. You must let them cool down completely, and I mean absolutely, totally, completely cool. If you attempt to frost a cake that is even slightly warm, you'll end up with a dreadful, melted, sliding mess. So please be patient. It will be worth the wait, I promise you. While your cake layers are cooling down nicely, you can get on with making your frosting. A classic chocolate buttercream is absolutely perfect for this cake, and it's simple to make. You will need unsalted butter, properly softened to room temperature, icing sugar, also known as powdered sugar, which must be sifted to remove lumps, good quality cocoa powder, also sifted for smoothness, and finally a tiny splash of milk or double cream to get the right consistency. Beat the softened butter with an electric mixer until it's very pale and fluffy. Then, gradually add the sifted icing sugar and cocoa powder, beating well after each addition. Finally, beat in the milk or cream until the frosting is light, smooth, and wonderfully spreadable. Always taste it. Adjust if needed. Assembly time. This is the exciting part where it all comes together to create your masterpiece. Place one of your cooled cake layers onto your chosen serving plate or cake stand. Spread a generous, even layer of your delicious chocolate frosting on top. Then, carefully place the second cake layer squarely on top of the frosted layer. Now you can frost the top and the sides of the entire cake. You can make the frosting beautifully smooth using a palette knife, or create lovely, inviting swirls with the back of a spoon. Decorate with chocolate shavings, colorful sprinkles, or perhaps some fresh berries if you like. Then, take a step back and admire your brilliant work. You've baked a truly fantastic chocolate cake. Slice it, share it with friends and family, and enjoy every single delightful bite. Well done, you.